But I go back to, if there's one thing that HR can do, it's focused on adding value, and that value add, to me, a lot of that comes by focusing on where the real talent needs to be and getting the best people into those roles. Laser focus, do a few things, do them really well.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Neha at peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view, integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We're on the peopleHum blog and channel that receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Robert Rigby Hall, the co-CEO at Whoosh5, a technology-enabled e-coaching company. Robert's work involves delivering innovative HR strategies that drive business results in highly competitive, fast-paced, public and private equity-backed companies. He has a unique ability to create strong HR business partner teams who deliver leading-edge people strategies and tactics with a strong focus on talent management and employee engagement. He describes himself as a highly adaptable and agile leader who drives growth through acquisition, integration, restructuring, international expansion, organizational alignment, and culture change. Some of Robert's top skills include talent management, employee engagement, performance management, culture and change management, and leadership development. So with that, we're very intrigued to get into conversation with you today, Robert. Welcome to peopleHum.
Thank you. Very kind of you to have me on.
Thank you. Robert, you're the CEO at Whoosh5, a technology-enabled e-coaching company. So that sounds very interesting. Could you tell us more about it?
Sure. Whoosh5 has been around for about 4 years. And as you said, we're a technology-enabled e-coaching and resilience building company. And resilience right now, as we know through the pandemic, has been so important for people. And the company's based out of between the Netherlands and between Houston and the US. We also have a group selling the solution in Singapore for the Asia Pacific market. And as I said, it's science-based, it's around positive psychology, and it's been really challenging for people in the last year through the pandemic. McKinsey published a report recently that talked about how, in particular, the diverse groups have been impacted. So the LGBTQ community, women, people of color, they all need more help and more support than ever before. Harvard Business Review talked about the fact that I think it was about 45% of highly paid workers still struggle to build resilience. And so that's our niche market. We have a process of 5 fairly straightforward and simple steps that are around setting your goal for improving your resilience. Then we measure resilience against 8 factors. We then have somebody go through a 90-day trek, and the treks are based on particular roles. So it could be a sales resilience role, it could be a new manager, it could be a new hire. They do these 90 days of daily exercises that are very brief. They're based on an app or online, 2 to 15 minutes long. All the time they have the ability to reach out to a coach through email, through chat. And then at the end of it, we measure resilience again. And 90% of people who go through it say that they are more capable, more adaptable, more resilient at the end of the 90 days. So it makes a real difference to everybody who goes through it.
That definitely sounds very interesting. And the work that you're doing is really good, Robert. I also feel like that's a very comprehensive way of looking at how employees work. So thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot for sharing that with us. Secondly, you also hold expertise in culture change. So in what is now a changing culture work environment, how do you suggest that leaders focus on maintaining or perhaps identifying ways to regulate culture changes?
Well, I think it's really interesting, and lots of people have different definitions of culture. And one of the ones that I heard very early on in my working career was that culture is the historical residue of experience. And I've used that throughout my career to explain to CEOs and to business leaders why we can't change culture kind of at the drop of a hat. We can't have a new culture tomorrow. It takes time, it takes years for culture to change. And so for me, it's not a short-term process. I think the way that we get culture to change is have a clear view about what we want as a culture, and to then move the organization towards that over a period of time. And one of the key ways of doing that is through engagement, through talking to our employees, getting feedback from our employees, helping shape the culture, having leaders who demonstrate the culture that we want. And whether that's, online, whether that's through Zoom, Teams, Skype calls, the world that we're now in the pandemic, but it's about modeling that behavior and making sure that leaders demonstrate it. And where we have leaders who don't demonstrate the culture that we want, then to be honest, we have to get rid of those leaders. We have to give them an opportunity to change, but if they can't change, they have to be moved out, because it only takes, you can show something positive 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, but all it takes is one leader who doesn't do something in the right way, and we wipe away all of those good leaders' changes. So yeah, for me, it's about modeling the right behavior that we want for the future culture.
Definitely, Robert. You've described yourself as a growth-focused HR professional in what is a highly competitive and rapidly growing domain, more so with the advent of technology during a global pandemic. So to what extent would you say that factors such as technology contribute during the growth process, so within your organization? And I'd also love to hear some views on some other factors that you think contribute to this growth, maybe say along with technology.
Yeah, technology is without a doubt a big driver of growth. And if I look back over my career of 30 plus years, I spent time in, Hasbro, US toy company. There it was moving from regular games and regular toys to interactive toys. Dare I say CD-ROM? I mean, that dates me, because now CD-ROMs aren't really being used. It's all online. From there to LexisNexis, which was or is a big legal content business. Big chunk of that business was in print, and now it's all online. Many searches in LexisNexis start on Google, and then they move across to paid search on LexisNexis. And my last role at NXP, big global semiconductor company, I mean, they make the chips that are in every piece of technology, whether it's your car to your phone to your home automation system. So technology provides such a platform for growth. What's interesting is it also provides a platform internally for organizations for growth, and all aspects of it. So if you think about something like recruiting, one of the things that we did at NXP was we provided an app to managers that would let them know what candidates they would see. It would allow them to have sample interview questions. That's a great way to harness technology and serve it up to improve a process, in that case, the talent acquisition process. So I think technology internally allows us to do more. At the same time, there was a recent Harvard Business Review article that said, yes, in the pandemic, you are working longer hours. And so that's one of the negatives with technology. So I think people need to be able to put boundaries around technology, both in work and in home, and decide how they're going to let technology infringe on their life. But without a doubt, I think technology has helped. I think when you talk about growth in companies, then it's about globalization as well. We've had opportunities to move products throughout the world, whereas if you go back 30, 40, 50 years, companies were very much focused on their single geography. Now, the world truly is their oyster. So lots of things I think have contributed to growth, as well as cheap capital in recent years. That's allowed companies to invest and expand their businesses as well.
Absolutely. I love what you said about regulating how we use technology, because at the end of the day, it's available for our own use, right? And unless we know how to regulate that and make sure that it does not cross boundaries, I feel like that is the new way of working. So thanks for that insight. The next question that I want to ask you is that as someone who holds expertise in talent acquisition as well, and that's something we briefly spoke about, I want to ask you, many HR professionals hold the view that the acquired talent can be taught to the right skill sets to flourish in their organization, which is partly true. But do you think that this aspect should be explored during the very first stage of acquiring talent itself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I look at talent acquisition as acquiring two things. You're acquiring a set of technical skills, and as an HR leader, it's hard very often for me to assess those technical skills. But then you're also acquiring a set of behaviors. And those behaviors are the things that are about fit to the organization's culture. And that's where I think HR plays a really important role in measuring that cultural fit. So line manager should focus on, in the main, the technical skills. HR focuses on the cultural fit. And I think we've all seen, particularly at a senior level, where leaders come in and they start to fail, and the sort of, I like to think of it as the sort of antibodies of the organization come out and attack them, yes, because they're trying to do things in a way that is just too different to the culture of the organization. And that, that can be okay. But at times we're also trying to bring leaders in because we want to change the culture of the organization. And there it can be really damaging, because you're bringing a leader in, giving them a set of expectations to drive change, but the organization's not ready for that change yet. And those antibodies come out and attack. So I think there's a really important role for HR to play in not just understanding talent and bringing it into the organization, but also really understanding where value is created in the organization. And I don't think that's somewhere that enough focus is on, because if we focus on where there's real value creation, then we can focus on the key roles that drive that value. And those key roles are not always hierarchical. So we tend to think about paying the most, incentivizing the most to the most senior people. But for example, in the HR space, if we've got a very aggressive growth plan where we need to hire a lot of really great talent, then maybe the talent acquisition leader has higher value to the organization than I do as the CHRO. And that doesn't necessarily mean they get paid more, but it does mean that we should focus attention on getting the very best person into that role. And that fit and taking a more scientific approach to getting the right talent in the right role, the best talent there, is something that I think HR has talked about, but we haven't taken a very scientific approach to. And there's some organizations starting to do that. And I think that's where HR can be at the real leading edge and add real value to organizations.
Definitely. I love the parallel that you drew to antibodies, because once you did that, it was very simple to understand how everything just comes together and how it all works together. The last question that I want to ask you, Robert, is do you have any passing remarks for our audience?
No, I think I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and their quick questions and quick answers. But I go back to, if there's one thing that HR can do, it's focused on adding value, and that value add, to me, a lot of that comes by focusing on where the real talent needs to be and getting the best people into those roles. Laser focus, do a few things, do them really well. Thank you.
That's great advice. That's great advice, Robert. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I wish you a great day ahead, and I wish you and your business all the best.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.